This says we're live. We're going to find out. Stacy, what up? Stacy's on YouTube. Stacy, just let me know that you can hear me. Somebody first went in. Just let me know that the sound is working, please. That would be great. I do not know how many people are going to show up. Hopefully it's going to work out just great, like it usually does. We're going to find out. I see 5 people. Just somebody give me the heads up. Bethany. Bethany is, I can always count on Bethany to tell me. Willow, what up? So hopefully everybody on YouTube can also hear me. Great. This is going to Facebook and also to YouTube at the same time. High technology and all that. Leslie is here. What up? So we'll wait for some folks to arrive. There's already 17, 23, 24. Last time we did this, we got close to 100 people. So we're going to find out. Norma, Courtney, heads up. Excellent. Andrea is here. Excellent. See, Australia, I told you it was 6 a.m. your time. I know my times. Majan is here. Judy's here. I can't say hi to everybody. Rachel is here, but I'll try and keep up. Today, we are going to talk about what I think is, Rebecca made it. Cool. Jay's here. I can hear you whether I want to or not. Dude, you can't get away from me, brother. That's just the way it's going to be. So yeah, Danny's up super early down under. So that's cool. We have Australia in the house. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is pretty much the linchpin of any good recovery program. And that is the ability to change your reaction to anxiety, panic, and fear. This is what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to read a chapter out of my book. The book is coming out on June 10th. For those of you who are not already aware, I'm going to put a shameless plug right here. If you would like to get in on the pre-order, I'll give you some book stuff before we start. So the book's official release date on Kindle is June 10th, which is only a few weeks away, which is great. But you can pre-order it now on Kindle, and then there will be a print version. The print version will be out probably within days after that, because we don't have to wait for reformatting this time. There was a long wait last time for the first book. So Kindle, you can pre-order now. It'll download directly to your Kindle device or your Kindle app automatically on June 10th. Subtitles. Awesome. I'm not even doing that. I do like them bananas. If you do the pre-order from this URL right here, it just will link you over to Amazon. It'll download automatically to your Kindle or your Kindle app on June 10th. And then right after that, those of you who want to order the print version can go back and order the print version. There will be a print version. I don't know how long it will take for you to get the print version because of all the COVID stuff and everything. Everything is a little bit weird right now. But it is what it is. And just so everybody is also aware, I will put it up on the screen before we start. This is what the book, this way, the book actually looks like this. So you can tell that the first book and the second book are sort of go together. They're in the same thing, but this is the gray book and the first book is the white book. So look for this one if there's any sort of confusion. I'm not going to leave that up there because I can't do like an hour shameless plug. I can't do it. I will leave the URL up there though, as we read. Okay, so that is the book stuff. I will get back to comments. What we want to do, yes, my shirt matches the book. It was clearly intentional. So what we're going to talk about today is the idea that you have to change your reaction to anxiety, panic, and fear in order for these things to change. So this is the linchpin of every good recovery plan. You have to be able to do this. This is chapter 3.6, or what I've been calling lesson 3.6 in the book. And I'm going to, when we start reading, you'll hear that I reference the previous lesson where I use a drive on the highway as an example of a challenge or an exposure. But yes, Viola, there will be an audio version that's going to take a while longer because I have to read the book and then get it engineered and all that stuff. But there will be, I promise, there'll be an audio version for both. So anyway, you'll see that I referenced the previous lesson in which I talked about a drive on the highway as a possible exposure or a challenge. But the principles, and I even mentioned, you'll see in the chapter here, apply to all scenarios, not just driving, right? So it's important to understand that. So let's start reading. We're going to roll through this here. Luke, I have not ever done that. I claim absolutely no expertise in speech pathology or speech problems like that. I wouldn't even begin to know where to start. I mean, maybe the anxiety comes with that, but I wouldn't even begin to know where to start on that, to be honest with you. I know nothing about that, unfortunately. Sorry, man. So let's get rolling here. Just like I said, this is lesson 3.6. There are 6 chapters in the book. Each chapter is divided into different lessons. So the book is actually written as a course. It totals over 70,000 or 75,000 words. It's 450 pages or so. And it is pretty much a course that you would read from beginning to end. and then you can go back in and then redo different lessons. So this is just one of those lessons. There are 30 something lessons in the whole book. This is just one of them. So it's a big book. We've been calling it the big book. And as it turns out, that is actually accurate. I had no idea I was writing this much, but this has been going on for almost a year now. I started writing last summer, and here we go. We're a couple of weeks away. Okay, so let's get to it. Lesson 3.6, changing your reactions. And I'm going to have to stop and drink a little bit. There's a lot of words in this chapter. It's going to take me about 25 minutes to read this to you. And that's if I don't actually stop and comment. So it's a long one. We've seen the 3 reactions that are driving the faulty brain link between fear and danger. The reaction before, the reaction during, and the reaction after. Now that we understand how they work, we can look at how to change them into something more straightforward and more effective, all by doing nothing. You heard me, nothing. We're going to take all the something that you've been doing to save yourself and turn it into nothing. We're going to prevent all those old reactions and replace them with no response. Why? Because nothing works, and it works faster and more efficiently than something. Exposure therapy is a cornerstone of cognitive behavioral therapy, but it's not just exposure. It's called exposure and response prevention, ERP. It's not just about intentionally doing scary things. It's about doing them without responding in the old, non-productive ways. That's really important. The goal here is to teach your brain through experience that it has been wrong all the time. We need to correct the bad lessons your mind has learned and break the bad habits it's developed over time. The way to do this is not to tell it to change or to think about how to change. The way to do this is to show your brain a new way. The part of your brain responsible for all this does not respond to thought, reason, or logic anyway. It must be taught through direct experience. The experience we need to have to break those lousy brain habits is essentially this. I experienced anxiety or panic. I was very afraid. I was very uncomfortable. I did nothing about it. I was okay anyway, because afraid and uncomfortable do not equal danger. That's it. Simple lesson. When you feel anxiety and panic, do nothing and still wind up okay. This is how you teach your brain that all the stuff you've been doing has been unnecessary because it's been wrong all this time. You've always been okay. Even feeling your worst, you have been okay. It's not just the exposure, it's the response prevention too, the doing nothing. This is the cornerstone of everything. This is how you learn to recover right here. So let's go. So first, it's changing the reaction before your exposure, before the challenge that you have to meet. When you know you have to do something that you hate because you fear it, the first order of business is to accept that you're going to be afraid beforehand. That's how it's going to work. You'll be nervous about doing hard and scary things. Welcome to being human. Expect it. Don't fight it. Let yourself be nervous, but there's no reason to be passive about it. Changing your before reaction is about learning to live in the moment you are in, not living in a scary future. Your new before reaction is about living your normal life in slow, deliberate, tiny chunks. Living in the moment is a focus exercise. Imagine you're trying to improve your posture. Each time you find yourself slouching or hunching over, you continually correct your posture. You stand up straight. You may have to do this over and over throughout the day. Breaking the slouching habit, building the standing up straight habit takes awareness, action, and repetition. The same goes for learning to change your focus from the future to the present. In the last lesson, we used a drive on the highway as our example event. Let's continue with that. Remember that the concepts apply across all situations, not just driving. When you know that you're going to be driving on the highway or whatever your challenge is, you will get anxious about it. This is normal. There is no need to try to banish the fear or drown it out. However, when you find yourself thinking about the drive, stop and return your focus to the present moment. Focus on what you are doing right now. The drive doesn't exist yet. The future hasn't arrived yet. There's absolutely no reason to live the future before it arrives. Thinking about it, worrying about it, and ruminating about it will not change any outcomes. They will not protect you or save you from a horrible fate. These actions will simply fuel the fear cycle and make anticipatory anxiety even worse. Are you driving right now, or are you listening to me read a book? Are you in the car right now, or are you chewing the eggs you cooked for breakfast? Are you on the highway right now, or are you brushing your teeth? Are you behind the wheel, or are you playing with your dog? Each time your mind goes back to the upcoming event, stop and return it to the present and the activity that you are currently engaged in. Regardless of what that activity is, you will find that you have to do this again and again. It will be very difficult at first. You may find that you are frustrated and you may think that you have no control over the process, but you do have control. Like any new skill, this will take time to learn and master. Be patient. This new tactic is not designed to instantly change everything for you. It's designed to change your reaction to fear incrementally over time. This is how this works. So be prepared for that. When you become aware that you have a difficult and scary event coming up, make a plan, then execute it step by step. The plan is designed to keep you living in the present rather than the future, and it will look something like this. Every day before the event, do not think about the event. When you think about the event, stop. Think about what you're doing in the present. Take each activity you will engage in throughout your days and break them into tiny pieces. Putting groceries away? Don't put them all away at once. Attack every single item as its own project. Focus on each one fully. Pick it up, walk to where it belongs, open the cabinet door, place the item inside, close the cabinet door. Go back for the next item that needs to be put away. Are you thinking about the drive that will happen in 4 days? Stop. Return your focus to the box of cereal in your hand and complete the task in progress. Break everything you are doing into the smallest possible chunks and focus on completing each chunk before moving on to the next. This likely sounds odd to you. That's okay if it does. Breaking the act of making tea into 472 discrete steps isn't something you normally do, so this is going to take some getting used to. Just do it even when it feels strange. It will become familiar pretty quickly. Your goal is to remain in the present and to slow things down. There's no need to rush through your day. Go slow, be deliberate and purposeful in your actions, and remember to keep your body relaxed and your breath flowing. On the day of the event, plan every activity leading up to that scary event, then execute that plan. Perform every activity slowly, deliberately, and mindfully. Start with opening your eyes in the morning, then sitting up, then putting your feet on the floor. Move on to standing up, then walking to the bathroom. Make every step you take before that drive count. Time to brush your teeth? Just pick up your toothbrush, then pick up the toothpaste, then put the toothpaste on the brush, then put down the toothpaste, then put the brush in your mouth, then brush. Break it all down into that kind of detail and execute every single motion intently and with full focus. Be slow, breathe, and relax your body. You have no need to live the scary event yet. You still have to shower, get dressed, eat, get the kids off to school, and walk the dog first. As they happen, slowly and mindfully in the sequence, these actions are the only real things. The scary event isn't real yet. It doesn't exist until it does. So getting to that point in a mindful, quiet, slow, and focused manner is essential. Why should you work on living in the moment, slowing down and breaking your day into tiny slices? What does this have to do with changing your reaction to anxiety and panic? Well, it has everything to do with it. By taking control of the process and executing a plan, you are forcing your brain to do none of the things it used to do before the scary event. It will not race. It will not obsess. It will not create worst-case scenarios. It will not drag you around, and it will not pour continuous buckets of irrational thoughts and fears over your head. You will be taking all of that away from your brain. This is important because you will ultimately arrive at the moment where the drive on the highway, for example, begins. But now you'll get there without having been on high alert for hours or days beforehand. The lesson you will teach your brain is that it was okay to not go into alert, defend, and escape mode. Even remaining quiet, slow, and calm got you to the event. Look, brain, none of the stuff was required. We're still here. Nervous, afraid, and uncomfortable about the drive, but still here. So now let's go. Do you see how changing how you react to that before fear can teach your brain new lessons? Blocking the old brain habits and still being okay, ready for the highway drive, shows your brain that it doesn't have to do all that stuff any longer. Will your mind learn this lesson immediately? No, it will not. This will take repetition and practice. It's a process. Be patient with yourself and stick to the plan. Over time, you will teach your brain to approach upcoming challenges in a totally different way that doesn't involve being consumed by fear, worry, and dread for hours or days on end. As with everything we're talking about, doing this is not a shield against anxiety. As you work on living slowly and mindfully and refocusing your thoughts from the future to the present, you will feel anxious and afraid. This will be especially true when you first start out. Expect this. You will have to do this work while anxious at first. Do not expect that focusing on your shoelaces will instantly wipe away those feelings. It will not, at least not immediately. Do this often enough, however, and you will find your anticipatory anxiety is decreasing and that you can actually experience increasing levels of calm even when you have a challenge on the horizon. Trust the process, execute the plan, show your brain new things, and allow it to learn. You will be amazed at how it will change if you give it a chance. Quick water here. Okay. Now we move on to changing your reaction during, meaning during the exposure or during the challenge. This is where the rubber meets the road, no pun intended. Now it's time to actually do that drive on the highway. And remember, well, I'm talking about a drive on the highway, but this could be anything. Now it's time to actually do the drive on the highway that you've been fearing and avoiding for so long. The difference is that now we're going to do it differently. We're going to allow the fear and discomfort to come without trying to wipe it away or escape from it. This time, when those sensations and thoughts arrive, we will do nothing. To start, you need to be okay with the fact that you're going to be afraid, maybe even terrified. This is to be expected, especially the first few times you try this new approach and intentionally put yourself into anxiety or panic-inducing situations. You will be afraid and uncomfortable, and you may even panic. Expect it and be okay with it. Understand that experiencing these things with your new do-nothing plan is how you teach your brain that it's been wrong all this time. When you're on that highway and driving along, when you feel your anxiety rising, or maybe you even started the drive at near panic levels, the overall strategy is to stop trying to protect yourself against it. Protecting yourself against anxiety and panic has never helped you, so we need to stop doing that. But how? How do we let our feelings and thoughts surround and engulf us without reacting? That sounds impossible. I promise it's not. It's very difficult because it requires that you display courage, even extreme courage, in the beginning. It requires that you make a commitment to trust the process and see it through. You will be taking a leap of faith when you do this. I acknowledge that. Your brain is convinced that you are in real danger. So by deciding to intentionally do scary things, and to do nothing when the alarms start ringing, you are effectively choosing certain doom. You're not really, but your brain thinks you are. So it will scream at you when you relax and breathe instead of running for help. As far as the fear center in your brain is concerned, you may as well be standing still as a speeding train heads directly toward you. The fear will be that intense. This is what makes this a difficult thing to do, especially the first few times. Remember, though, that there really is no speeding train. It's an illusion. Your brain has been mistaken. It's creating a danger where none exists. You have to show it that the threat doesn't exist. The only way to do that is to allow the worst possible thing to happen. Here's the secret. It won't. I promise it won't. I want to say this. This is important. I am not writing a book about how to do dangerous things. I am writing a book about how to do hard things. Know and trust the difference. Let's go back to the car, our drive down the highway. How should you react differently? What are the nuts and bolts? Well, there aren't many. This is good news. Here's how it works. When you feel a scary sensation in your body, you will want to tense up and brace against it. You'll want to fidget and wiggle in your seat. You may want to literally grab yourself. You may want to grab your phone to call for help or turn up the radio, blast the air conditioning, or open a window. Do none of these things. Instead, simply relax your body like a rag doll. Release every bit of tension. Just let it go. In the case of our drive down the highway, keep your hands on the steering wheel, but no death grip. Be still in the seat. Relax against the seat back, chin up, eyes open, relax into the fear. Let it wash over you thoroughly. Let it engulf you. Do nothing when it does. Just maintain your position in a relaxed way. This is the exact opposite of what your body and brain are telling you to do. Remember, your brain thinks this is actual danger. It will want you to do something to save yourself. Don't. Relax and let the tension out of your body. Drive the car as if you do not have a care in the world. Relax and drive while the fear of the fear tries to kill you, make you insane, or whatever it is you fear will happen. It won't. These things have never happened, and nothing you have ever done has stopped them from happening. That's because they were never going to happen to begin with. So do nothing with your body except go limp and drive. Now let's talk about your breath. While you are going totally limp, you will breathe. You know all the thousands of times you've heard someone say, take a deep breath. Forget that. You don't need a deep breath to calm down. Get that out of your head. No deep breathing, cleansing breaths, or grounding breaths. None of that is needed. All you need is just plain old regular breathing. Your body knows exactly how much air to take in and how much to exhale. It knows when to do this and how to do this. You couldn't stop it if you tried. You will simply breathe. Breathe through your nose, breathe into your belly, not into your chest. Your shoulders and chest should not be rising and falling with each breath. Your stomach should be expanding and contracting. You will inhale, pause for a brief moment, then exhale for a bit longer than the inhale. Some people like to count in for 4, hold, out for 6. You will not attempt to fill your lungs with air. That's chest breathing. You will not sigh on the exhale. This is often done in an attempt to calm down, but the heavy sigh is a fast, high volume exhale. This can lead to overbreathing, which can lead to hyperventilation. If your face, hands, and feet get tingly, you are hyperventilating. If your hands and feet cramp up and lock so that you can't use them, you are hyperventilating. I do have some useful instructions and links to tutorials and breathing on my website, and I'll give you guys in the book a URL. It's not built yet. I'm going to put all the breathing videos and the relaxation, put them all on one page on my website. Okay, ready? Learning this and practicing proper breathing all the time when not in a panic will help make it the default state when you need it to be. Now, let's look at your thoughts. When you are in a high anxiety or panic state, your brain will lock into high gear. It will scream scary things at you. They will all start with, oh my God, or what if. It will tell you that you are going to die, lose your mind, or look like a fool. Your brain will take your worst fear and yell it in your face at high volume, trying to get you to take evasive action. This is to be expected. This is your brain doing what it thinks is its job. It's trying to keep you alive and safe. It does not know that you're going to be just fine. It thinks it needs to intervene. When those thoughts are racing through your head and screaming loudly at them, you will not answer them. No self-talk, no affirmations, no talking yourself down, none of that. You can't reason. You cannot reason with irrational fear. It will never listen to you. There will always be one more what if thought, always. Trying to soothe yourself by repeating I'm okay is a dead end. It doesn't really work. It's actually counterproductive. Remember, the fear center in your brain isn't listening, and it doesn't learn that way. Trying to counter such thoughts while in a state of panic is like trying to call someone who has their phone turned off. It's impossible. No, coping statements are nonsense when you're in a panic. Your brain doesn't care about your coping statements. It doesn't even hear them. Instead, while your brain is screaming for your attention, you are going to place your focus elsewhere. You are going to deny its request for attention. Let me read that again. While your brain is screaming for your attention, you are going to place your focus elsewhere. You are going to deny its request for attention. You're not getting it. Place your focus on the tip of your nose. Why? Because this is where your breath enters and leaves your body, so it's a handy target. There's no spiritual significance to the tip of your nose or your breath. It's just a convenient focal point. You will breathe like we just talked about breathing. Then you will simply bring your focus to the tip of your nose and your breath. When your brain yells, oh my God, I'm dying, you will gently bring your focus to the tip of your nose and your breath. Let it scream. Let the thought be there. Do not try to stop it or argue with it. When the next thought grabs your attention, you will not respond or engage. You will bring your focus back to the tip of your nose and your breath. You will do this again and again and again. It is not easy. You are choosing to dismiss deeply ingrained alarms designed to keep you safe. You are essentially doing the opposite of what you've been programmed to do. Remember that you're not trying to get the scary thoughts and suggestions to stop. You're merely working on letting them be there without engaging with them in any way. I like to use the tip of my nose and breath as a focus point, but I also mentally visualize turning my back on my thoughts. Imagine someone coming up to you on the street and screaming in your face. Rather than screaming back, you relax and gently turn your back on the screamer. They may come around to your face again. Relax and turn your back again, and again, and again, as often as it takes. At some point, your screaming friend will learn that this is pointless and it will stop screaming. This is what we're doing with our brain and our thoughts. We are trusting that there really is no danger and never has been. And we are teaching our minds the proper lesson. Now let's go back to our driving scenario once more. You may have to pull over. This is perfectly acceptable, especially in the early stages of this new approach. You may find that when anxiety and panic arrive, that you have to stop what you're doing and actively do this new nothing. This is quite common. Doing nothing is a new skill for you. You may need to stop everything to focus on being non-reactive to your thoughts and sensations. When driving, this may mean pulling over to the side of the road for a few minutes. This is not wrong or incorrect in any way. The more times you do this, the more you will develop the ability to do nothing while doing other things. I can have a full-blown panic attack while driving, lifting weights in the gym, or having a business meeting. No one has any idea. I am able to do nothing while doing something, but this is the result of years of practice and experience. You'll get there too. But for now, pull over or otherwise stop what you're doing if you need to. That's okay. When you do nothing during periods of high anxiety and panic, the intense sensations and fear will pass. When you do it well, they will pass much more quickly than you can imagine. When they pass, you will calm down, be less afraid, and will generally feel better. When you will have done nothing to save yourself or escape, yet you will feel better faster. You will experience the full force of anxiety, fear, discomfort, and panic. Do nothing in response and wind up perfectly okay anyway. Can you see how this will teach your brain that there is no need to go into alert mode anymore? The outcome, being okay, even after taking no protective or evasive action, is the experience we need to have to break the faulty brain link between fear, discomfort, and danger. Every time you have this experience, that link gets a bit weaker. Over time and with repetition, the link will break. When it does, you will lose your fear of anxiety and panic. When you are no longer afraid of anxiety and panic, everything changes. It will be wonderful. Doing nothing is extremely powerful. Doing nothing leverages the incredible power of your brain to learn and adapt. Doing nothing uses the same mechanism that got you into this mess to get you back out. So the last part is the reaction after, but I gotta wet the whistle a little bit. And many of the things that I talk about in this lesson, in this chapter, I've spent this is page, I don't even know what page this is, 200 and something. There's 200 and somewhat pages before this in the book that builds up to this, that explains all of the faulty links. All of this is in great detail. I mean, I wrote a lot of words. Okay, so the last part, changing the reaction after. So after your challenge, after your exposure, after your panic, after your high anxiety, the reaction after. We got to change that too. So congratulations. You lived the hours or days preceding that scary event differently. You did the event differently. You've learned to be mindful, live in the present, focus where you want to focus, relax, and become non-reactive to the sensations and thoughts that come with anxiety and panic. Amazing. Now we need to turn our attention to changing your reaction after the fact. To finish up with our highway driving example, what should you do once the drive is over? You're done. You did it. You're back home, but your work isn't finished yet. First, recognize the victory. You were afraid beforehand. You were terrified during. You may have been in a total panic on the highway. That isn't defeat or failure. Remember that you only learn by experiencing those things. So do not look at the experience as bad or negative because you felt fear or discomfort. Understand that you felt fear and discomfort more constructively than you used to. You took a step forward. Even if you weren't able to entirely do nothing and you bailed out halfway through, you still made a step ahead. You took the first step toward changing your reaction to anxiety and panic. You started to teach your brain new lessons. That's progress. If you made the whole drive and managed to be non-reactive the entire time, that's a bonus. It probably means you've had some practice and you're getting better at it. Always think about what you did better than you used to do. You took a different approach. You did different things. Every change matters. They all add up. From this moment on, feeling poorly is not a failure. It's not defeat, and it's not negative. It's learning. Next, we need to change the words we use. You didn't make it. Never, never say you made it. It's inaccurate because you were always going to make it. That was never a question in terms of objective reality. The doubt was false doubt that existed only in your anxious thoughts. Don't give the doubt any more power. You didn't make it. You did it. Maybe you did it uncomfortably, but you did it nonetheless. Always say you did it. Remember when you refused to do it, but now you did it. That's progress. Stop using inflammatory words and phrases. You were not in hell. It wasn't horrific. You didn't almost die or pass out. And not every panic attack you have is the worst one you've ever had. That's ridiculous and impossible. Those phrases and phrases like them have got to be removed from your vocabulary. They have never served you well. They are not descriptions of reality. From now on, we deal only in fact, not in your interpretation or feelings. Next, you will shorten the story. No more long-winded recounting of every scary sensation and thought. They do not need to be described. They only matter in your own head. This story isn't about your rapid heartbeat or depersonalization anymore. That story is part of your problem, so it's time to stop telling it. From now on, your accounts will be objective and concise. I drove on the highway for 20 minutes today. It's the first time I've done that in 8 months. It was really scary and hard to do, but I did it. I was afraid and uncomfortable, but I was okay. I did it and I was okay. See how that story sounds very different than the one you've been telling? It's accurate and it helps to change the way you view things. In the old story, you are being kicked around by anxiety and panic. In the new account, you are in control. Your brain needs to hear that. Now it's time to think about who gets to hear your new story. You have to listen to it without a doubt. It's essential to tell yourself this new story. But who else should you tell? You may choose to keep it to yourself. That's perfectly fine. I generally did my work in silence without sharing much of it with anyone else. That was my way. If that's your way, great. If it's not, that's great too. Just be careful about who you share your new story with. What reaction are you getting? Are you getting encouragement to keep going? Are you getting support? Are you telling your new story to cheerleaders, or are you telling your new story to people who will dismiss it, minimize it, and immediately make it about them and why they can't or won't do what you just did? This can be a problem, especially online. Do your best to surround yourself with people who will be happy when they hear your new story. Look for people who encourage you to keep going. Seek out people who may share your struggle, but will use your new story to motivate and inspire them. This matters. Finally, and most importantly, instead of being happy that you're back to your safe zone, plan to do the hard thing again right away. And I know if Danny is still here listening, she's the first one to do what I would usually do. Somebody says, hey, I just did a thing I haven't done in 8 months. And she will roll in and say, do it again. And this is why. So instead of being happy that you're back in your safe zone, plan to do that hard thing again right away, or a different hard thing. Gone are the days where you brute force and white knuckle your way through the supermarket only to reward yourself with 4 days at home afterwards. Supermarket in the morning, walk around the block in the afternoon. Then do it again tomorrow. Stop reacting to these events like you've earned a vacation afterwards. There are no vacations in recovery. Celebrate the progress and plan for more. Look forward to it. Doing these things is proactive. You're actively engaging in the process of recovery. Talk about it and plan for it accordingly. When you change your after reaction, you change how you tell the story and who you tell it to. You change your next steps from retreat to repetition. Doing these things teaches your brain the new lessons it needs to learn. When we change our reactions to anxiety, panic, and fear before, during, and after episodes of high anxiety or panic, we set our brains on a new path. We weaken incorrect links and build new productive and positive connections. We leave wrong answers and bad cognitive habits behind while learning proper lessons and developing good brain habits. Changing our reactions is a simple yet challenging idea to put into practice. When you find your courage, get determined, and do the work, you will learn it will be well worth it. Then the day will come, maybe sooner than you think, when you suddenly find yourself not gripped by fear and worry all the time. That will be a great day. I promise it will. So that is lesson 3.6, chapter 3.6, whatever you want to call it. And if you like that, you can get it, the rest of the book right there. So that's my salesman thing. And if you really like what you're hearing and you think it's going to help, I'm going to ask you to say thank you, not say thank you, to give a thumbs up on YouTube, share the video, whatever it is, right? So if you're getting help, let's help other people get help too. So let us go to comments here. There's a ton of them. There's no way I'm going to be able to get to all of them, guys. Like, I see that you guys have been helping each other, which is awesome. I can't see Fed comments. Sorry about that. So I'm doing my best I can. Let's see here. could you please recap what the live was about? I can't go back and recap what the live was about. You go back and read it again. Let me tell you something else. What I just read is also this week's podcast episode. I released it yesterday and I didn't announce it, but I will actually be, I'll announce it on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and all like I usually do. So you don't have to come back and watch this video again. You can actually hear that chapter as a podcast recorded in my little makeshift studio back there. So you can just go back and listen to this again and again and again if you want as a podcast episode. So there you go. So let's see here. No. Good morning. Finally got your book. Oh, cool. Thanks, Paulie. All right, let's see here. The only teaching, this is so good. I'm going to put some stuff up here on the screen. The only thing that teaches us how to ride a bike is to ride a bike. Thank you, Jay. That's absolutely true. So the only thing that teaches you how not to be afraid of anxiety, panic, and fear is to act like you're not afraid of anxiety and panic and fear. It's the only way to do it. Let's see here. I was totally slouching. We all have that problem. Phones are slouching machines now. So let's see here. Many reminders. Slowly. If you're behind the wheel and playing with your dog, stop. No. Yeah, I would agree with this. And Danny answered this. No, you don't. Just do nothing. I need to reminders everywhere. The beauty of, I think, what I'm talking about, and I need to clarify, I didn't invent any of this. I invented none of this, right? So all I'm doing is I'm just the messenger. I'm just packaging it into a way that I think people understand. The beauty of this is there aren't a lot of things to remember. Like, just stop doing all your stuff. So instead of thinking you need reminders of what should I do now? What should I do now? It's easier to remember to stop doing things. So instead of thinking, what do I have to do now? What do I do when I feel this? Just stop doing all the stuff you used to do. Just default to nothing. Nothing is easy to remember because nothing is nothing. Yes, slowing and task chunking helps so much. And, I heard a lot of Eckhart Tolle. I still never going to know how to say his name. He talks a lot about mindfulness, and mindfulness is a great tool. So I know that a lot of times I have, maybe not been so receptive to Eckhart Tolle, only because he never gets to the point where he tells you what to do like I just did. That's why I pick on it a little bit. He's not a guide to recovery. But the mindfulness and living in the moment thing that he focuses on is excellent. It's really good. This is good too. No one has ever asked, why are you going so slow? Like, Andrea, that's really good because people won't notice. They won't know that you're going slower or faster. They won't notice at all. Like, you're only noticing it yourself. So there you go. Let's see. Look right around this exact moment. What is real and what is true? What is a story in your head? This is key. And I think what happens, Donna, this is good. Thank you for bringing it up. When we do these things and we become non-reactive and we practice non-reactivity to our thoughts and our fear and our anxiety and our panic, we don't have the ability beforehand. When you're in an anxious state, your ability to judge what is real and what is not is compromised, right? So you're mixing up what you think might go wrong and what really does. But when you just do these things anyway, even though you're not sure about doing them, over time, you learn, you break out of that fog. And then you can start to understand, like, oh, now I know that the threat wasn't real because I lived through it without protection. So we need these real experiences to learn those things. We need it. Let's see here. He'll need to brush on his painfully awkward pause. I've made a living in awkward pauses to a certain extent, but that's not here. That's in a different part of my life. Let's see here. Maureen is here. Hi, everyone. Let's see here. What happens if your scary event is happening all day? Okay, that's a reasonable question. The same thing. But I'm going to say this, Viola, that's a good question. You got to start working on the stuff right now, though. So that question says, I'm not really doing this stuff. I'm just waiting for challenging things to happen to me. And then I'm trying to find a way to white knuckle my way through them. So during recovery, when you're doing this work and you're putting the practice in and you're working on those issues, life is also going to come up. So you're going to have challenging things to do along the way that are unplanned, that don't necessarily fit as like planned exposures or systematic exposures. But when you're actually doing the systematic work, it becomes a little bit easier to face those things. So sometimes I have to answer those questions with, you do the same thing that I'm talking about now. So what did it last all day? And what's going to wind up happening is that first hour is going to be really hard. The second hour, a little less. The third hour, a little less, right? So by the time you get to hour 8, it's a little bit easier because when you truly do it this way, you're discovering like, all the stuff I've been afraid of. Viola, I'm going to talk about your fear of staying at home alone for days at a time. I don't have to be saved. Like, you're teaching yourself, the reason you're afraid to be home alone is that you think somebody has to be there to save you, but you don't. So go ahead and let the worst thing happen. And when it doesn't, you learn, oh, I didn't need anybody here at the house with me. So there you go. Stop protecting yourself is a key aspect of this. You don't realize that what you're engaging in is protective behavior. Like, your fear center and all of those instincts and everything that are built into us are kicked in at the wrong time. That's all this is. You want to hear something funny about it? I think I've said this. I had a friend who gifted me his audiobook. I don't even know which one, A New World or whatever it's called. And I listened to about half of it. And there's good stuff in there, don't get me wrong. But his voice, I equate Eckhart Tolle with Stephen Hawking. I hate to say it, because his voice reminded me of the Stephen Hawking synthesized computer voice. I know that's crazy. Let's see here. You can say this a million times. You are surrounded in this room right now with people who have actually done it and are here to tell the tale. So every time you say that, I'm going to stick it in your face that you are wrong, and one day you'll get it, or you won't. That's okay. How many days have you survived? Okay, let's see. You need to get your books. Still struggling with the rag doll. No. This is the best how-to chapter. Oh, thank you. I'm just trying to catch up here. Let's see. How-to versus vague concepts. This is honestly, Leslie, and I appreciate that you acknowledge that, because I spent so much time pounding on the keyboard and building this book over the course of really years before I actually wrote it, that, that was important to me, to be detailed and actually give people like what to do. And it's kind of where I think Claire Weeks falls down. She had the big concepts, which is great, but she never actually explained what to do. So there you go. Oh, this is okay. So Amberin, when you do deep breathing, you start to feel lightheaded. That's because you're over breathing. You're probably doing this. You're doing the big sigh, the heavy sigh after the breathe, and you're trying to fill your lungs and like you think that's going to calm you down. That's over breathing. And you only have to do that 4 or 5 times before you start to get the lightheaded stuff. So you're just not breathing right. And I will build that page. It's going to happen tomorrow. It's it'll be at theanxioustruth.com/skills. It'll have links to the diaphragmatic breathing video that I link all the time, and some progressive muscle relaxation, meditation, that sort of stuff. Let's see here. No, Marcy, you were surely not the only person who reacted so severely on highways. Definitely not. Let's see here. Willow says, I can read this chapter. Is this the chapter that I released? I did. There is a sample chapter of the book on the website. I didn't think it was this one though, but anyway, either way, that's cool. Let's see. Also keep the video. No. I see some, I'm going to just try and get through. I know this is boring watching me scroll through comments here. What about panic thoughts? Like, should you do, okay, ready? What about panic thoughts? Like, you should do X safety behavior. Well, yeah, your brain kept demanding that I tell somebody that, thank God I didn't. The thoughts are loud. So I'm sure you heard me read the whole rest of this. I don't care how loud the thoughts are. Let them scream and do not give them the attention that they deserve. Just because your brain is telling you to call someone to be safe doesn't mean it's right. Just saying. Like, and here's a thing that I think helped a lot of people when I said it. I don't know when I said this, but it seemed to resonate with a lot of people. Let's bring politics in for a second. I'm not going to argue politics, but politics is a good example. If you have your politics that you love and somebody is completely on the opposite side of you, so you're super progressive and they're super conservative, I don't care. You will look at that person when they argue politics with you and you will think, man, are they wrong? They are wrong. But what they're saying to you are thoughts that they have in their head, and then they're saying them out loud to you. And when you're debating politics or religion or something like that with them, you are thinking, man, this guy is so wrong. I can't even measure how wrong he is or she is. Why do you think their brain can be wrong, but yours can't? Think about that for a second. That person hearing you talk about your point of view thinks that you are incredibly wrong. You are the wrongest person walking the planet. So why do you think that everyone else's brains can be wrong, but yours are always right? Your thoughts are always right. Everybody else's thoughts is shit. That's crazy, right? So think about it that way. Your brain is quite capable of producing completely irrational, ridiculous thoughts. Our brains do that all the time, all the time. All right, let's see here. The difference between dry mechanical CBT work and every other thing. Yeah, let's put this on the screen because it needs to be said. And I know that this ruffles some feathers because a lot of people want to hang on to the, like, I need to talk it through. I need to internalize. Now I need to internalize it. Now I need to like bring it into the deepest parts of me. No, you don't. Like, this is so dry and mechanical. And I'm not saying that it's not worth it to do that other work. It absolutely is. And if you're still here in the UK, I'm gonna do the thing where I'm going to acknowledge the trauma wrinkle. You got to deal with all of those things, like old emotions and old trauma, and all you got to do all that stuff. But if you want to get to the point where you're not living in a panic all the time and hiding in your house and afraid to do things because you might panic, then this is the best way to do it. Sorry, it just is. And we just have a ton of data on this. I don't even know why it's an argument anymore. Telling my amygdala that we are safe and that Jesus has thoughts. I'm going to give you some news, my friend. Your amygdala doesn't understand language. It doesn't understand that. So it actually is telling your amygdala, or trying to talk to your amygdala, is like trying to talk to, whatever, this glass of water hears words as well as your amygdala does. That part of our brain does not process that at all. It only knows experience. It knows what it can feel, taste, see. It learns that way. That's why words don't matter. Yeah, thank you. Danny answered that. Just chasing feeling safe. So that thing, I'll address that when I say no self-talk, and I talk about this all the time. Let me clarify that for anybody who's still brave enough to be hanging around 50 minutes into it. Some people that asked me, and Rebecca, if you're still here, Rebecca brought this up in the thread this morning. What about all the CBT stuff about thought challenging and fact checking and keeping a thought record? That's all good stuff. I'm not saying not to do that. That stuff is really good when you're sitting at your kitchen table. You've just gotten out of maybe your session with your counselor, your therapist. You want to do your homework. You're not in a panic, right? You can sit and do that work. That work is the foundation of believing that the thoughts are fake. So you should do those things. Those are really good exercises. But when the shit hits the fan and you get to that point where anxiety is like going like this, you're heading towards panic, and you go over into the tipping point where there's panic, fact checking is worthless. And it often makes things worse because you can't make yourself feel better with words. So that's what I'm talking about. When I say that you cannot argue with rational fear, the post I made on Instagram this morning and all that stuff, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not dismissing the CBT exercises. They're really, really good. They just aren't really good in the heat of the moment. They go out the window. And I lived that. So I understand what that was. Like, that's just not it. Let's see here. No. We're disappointed if it isn't. I had to learn it doesn't. Okay, here we go. This is super important. Feeling anxiety doesn't mean you have a setback or aren't doing it right. It's about your reaction. And experiencing anxiety when you do these things is how we learn. The only way to learn to ride a bike, as Jay said, is to ride the bike and fall off it and skin your knee and get back on the bike and try again. So many people make the mistake of saying, oh, I went out for my drive, or I went to the supermarket, or I tried staying home alone, and I was so anxious. I'm terrible. I'm so down on myself. Well, you were supposed to feel anxious. Like, that's how you do this. You experience those feelings without reacting to them. You still wind up being okay, and you learned. You need the anxiety to be there to learn to not be afraid of it. Otherwise, you're just learning clever ways to not panic. And that builds the acceptable bubble. And that's why you see people like in the Facebook group that show up and say, I thought I had this lick 2 years ago, but it's back. They built an acceptable bubble, and they learned how not to panic, as opposed to like learning to not be afraid if they ever panic again. And that's the difference. Let's see here. Yeah, good point about telling your story. And in a way, Bonnie, what's important, and I tried to bring this out. I didn't want to dump too much on the internet, but when I wrote, be careful about who you tell online. We've talked about this ad nauseum in the group and how different our group is. And I am so effing proud of that group because it's so different. Most of the time when you go online to an anxiety group and you tell somebody what you just did, half the people will say, hey, that's really awesome. The other half will be angry that you did it. All it does is point out the fact that they're not getting better. And then they'll give you a million reasons why it's stupid. Oh yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Intentionally panic. Like, yeah, MFer, intentionally panic. So you stay here in this group for the next 10 years trying to fix your problem while I go do some hard work. And I'm calling that out. That's what I was talking about. So it's super important, like, who you surround yourself with too. Do not surround yourself with people that will continually try and soothe you with, it's okay, it's going to be fine, no one understands, this is the hardest thing ever, you're a warrior. Enough with that. Like, we got to do the work. Let's see here. when I have a panic attack, it makes it more likely that I have a panic attack again. Okay, that's what you're learning here is what the natural process is. So instead of like building everything with the intention to try to not panic, you're stopped doing that now. You're doing it differently. Yeah, that's right. You will have a panic attack again if I go. So here's how this works. I'll tell you exactly why. You go out and you drive to the gas station and you have a panic attack at the gas station. You are instantly afraid to go back to the gas station because you had a panic attack there. This is not rocket science. We are programmed to not want to repeat negative experiences. So when you have a panic attack doing a certain exposure, you become afraid to do that exposure again. If you used to love dogs and the neighbor's dog bites you bad on your hand, you can instantaneously be afraid of dogs. So Ciara, that's not what's happening there. Isn't strange. Like, it's okay though. You got to turn that around and say, well, that's fine. I need to be, I need to use that experience to learn, not be afraid of it. So there you go. All right, let's roll. Let's see. I'm trying to catch up. I'm sorry. No. How long is it? Okay, ready? No. I'm not sure if people are talking to me or not. I'm just trying to catch up. Man, there's so many comments. Thanks, guys. This is really so great. All right, let me scroll down here. Doing nothing and getting on. Let's see what Nancy has to say. What's up, Nancy? This thing is on a hyperventilation. Sometimes they almost faint. Yep. But you could fix that. Like you could actually fix that. So you're hyperventilating. It just means you're breathing wrong. That's a super easy thing to fix. Like that is an actual error that you're making your breathing by over breathing. And yes, if you hyperventilate, it is possible to pass out. That is possible. Also not dangerous though. Even if it does happen. So let's see here. Tara, you don't have to write all the notes. You can go back and listen anytime. And also that's this week's podcast. I'm going to post it. So let's see here. Is meditation necessary for recovery? I'm not going to say it's necessary. I personally know people who have never, the name of the podcast, Stephanie, is called The Anxious Truth. If you go to my website, theanxioustruth.com, you'll find links to iTunes and all the places that it is. Meditation, not absolutely necessary. I know a lot of people who recovered without it. So that's okay. But it's super helpful because meditation is a really good way to learn selective focus. And selective focus is a big part of recovery. You don't have to do it, but it's a good way to learn that skill. Marty says, what do you think about when you're forced to do things you'd rather not do in the beginning of recovery? Do them anyway. Like, what do I think? What do I think of that? I think that you have to do them anyway. So in other words, you're forced to do things that you're not ready to do. Is that it? I'm not sure of the question really. I'd like to know what you think about when you're forced to do things. Marty, I'm sorry. I'm not really sure that I understand, other than thinking, if for instance, you've been super housebound or something, and now somebody's making you go 6 hours away to a wedding. I'm not sure. If you can clarify, that would be great. Let's see here. No. Let's see here. Your method, I was housebound and back to work for 10 months, but look at that. That makes me so happy. Back to work. That's really great. Really, 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 really great. You're restarting this info. It's very valuable. I'm reading. I'm sorry, guys. Can a person think default to nothing? That's actually a good question. Can you think nothing? Can you think default to nothing? I think you can. Let's see here. Why are you going so slowly? Let's see here. OCD advice. There you go. That's a good comment too. Nothing at all. Turn the other cheek. I mean, these are skills that you have to learn. Like if we're not used to doing it that way, you're going to suck at it at first. All the stuff I'm talking about doing, you'll really suck at a lot in the beginning. I sucked at it, but like you get good at it when you practice it. So I mean, I can't believe I'm actually going to say these words, but be kind to yourself to a certain extent. I know I never say words like that because they get used as crutches, but it's true. Like it's okay if you're trying to do this new thing that you've never done before. It's completely opposite of what you think you're supposed to do. It's completely counterintuitive. Like be prepared to be bad at it at first. It's okay. Jules, I don't know if you're asking me because I can't see threaded comments. How long it took me. If you're asking me, then the answer is there was a tremendous amount of improvement just in the span of a month or so. My problem was, the driving thing, and I just relentlessly drove. So if you do it that way, and I was extreme, I will admit I was on an extreme kind of schedule, but progress can come pretty fast. The beginning progress comes fast, and then it's really the 80-20 rule. Like 20% of the effort gets you 80% there. and it kind of applies here. So you'll take some really big leaps forward in the beginning, but then it gets a little bit slower and harder. So that last 10% to 20% of recovery takes longer because you're in impractical areas where you have to do things that your life just doesn't require you to do every day. So let's see here. What Engvall talks about, not walking around like we are ill or old or whatever. Okay. Oh, that's cool. Okay. And that's true. So Engvall is 100% right. And her and I are in complete agreement on this. So she's saying, don't walk around like you're ill or old or whatever. What she's basically saying, and she's right, and I agree with this, is do not treat yourself like you are fragile. So when I'm saying slow down, I'm not saying slow down because something bad might happen if you go fast. I'm saying slow down because you're trying to train your brain to do a new thing. And often when you are racked with anxiety and it is ratcheted way up and you're in near panic mode, it's super hard to go slow. So that's actually a challenging thing to slow down. It doesn't mean take it easy. I don't mean go slow. Let me clarify that. When I say slow things down, I don't mean take it easy. I'm not telling anybody to take it easy. You may think you're fragile, but you are made of freaking stainless steel. You just don't know it. So no, it has nothing to do with taking it easy, which is the like, don't act like you're old, like you're incapable. Intentionally, it takes a lot of effort and strength to slow down. That's what I'm talking about. So there you go. Pretend you were really lazy. Or maybe we don't have to pretend. Sometimes I'm super lazy. That's a thing. Definitely. Yes. Okay, here we go. Step by step. Don't walk around like an old lady. You're going to break. Very good. Thank you. I should have read through more comments. You guys answered yourselves. Thank you so much. No. Yes, this is true. I tend not to, I mean, my YouTube channel is still there, but I don't publish that much to YouTube. It's almost all audio. Almost all of my stuff is audio. Sometimes there's a video, but I'm not really doing the YouTube thing that much these days. How does this, let's see if anybody answered this. I don't think so. Okay, we're almost done. I'm going to try and get to the end. We're almost done. And then I'm going to end it at an hour because this is way too long now. Insomnia and the fear of not sleeping. The fear of not sleeping answered your own question. Like you are demanding, if I do not sleep, I cannot recover. That is a distortion and it is wrong. It is absolutely wrong. During my recovery, I mean, I don't sleep much as it is even now, but I slept some nights an hour, some nights not at all, some nights 2 or 3 hours, maybe if I was lucky and I recovered. Like it's not required. Your thinking, Rose, your thinking is that like, if I don't get somehow this magic amount or quality of sleep, then recovery will be impossible. And that's just flat out not true. You might feel like crap after you don't sleep. But the problem is you're afraid of feeling like crap. So you're afraid if I don't sleep, I'll feel like crap. And that makes me afraid of myself. So that's the deal. Like insomnia does not necessarily impede recovery. It just makes you feel bad. And that's part of the problem. Feeling bad, it perpetuates the anxiety around the insomnia. So it's this is like vicious cycle. Okay, let's see. I know kids want to eat every night, man. You can't get around it. Let's see. Holly, this is super good. Thank you for sharing that. Like that's a big deal. And I appreciate that you put it out there. That is kind of self-medicating and a lot of people do that, but let's see. It is what it is. Didn't I make just dinner yesterday? I'm going to scroll. I'm never going to get to all these comments, guys. I'm sorry. All right, let's see here. I just told someone today, I learned how crazy strong I am. Hell yeah, you are. Absolutely. And you learn that by doing all kinds of hard shit. Let's see here. Sessions like this, it becomes personal and gives strength. Yeah, well, this is personal. Like I do take this somewhat personally. I want everybody to get better. Let's see here. Finally had a full-on panic attack behind the wheel. Holly, I know you were struggling with that. Like it wasn't happening and doesn't necessarily have to. Didn't pull over. That's progress, but you did white knuckle it. All right, but you know what you did. So next time you change it a little bit. It's okay. You learned. Learning is the thing. Learning is the thing. Oh, here we go. Sorry. I wasn't driving, but then husband fractured, right? Forced to drive. If I was forced, will I likely to go back to being afraid again? No. What you just said at the end there, Marnie, is the important part. You kept doing it. So what winds up happening is somebody who is forced to do something that they haven't done or they're terrified to do. If they say, oh my God, this is going to be terrible. I don't want to do this. I'm terrified. I'm going to panic. I hate this. I can't. They white knuckle their way through it. They're fighting it the whole time. They're telling themselves that they're in hell. They tell the story at the end about how horrible it was. And then they just retreat and don't do that thing again for 6 months. That's a problem. Your win was that you did this thing that you weren't expecting to have to do, but you kept doing it. That's important. So you answered your own question and you actually did it right. Let's see here. To be blunt, not caring is so freeing. Ha! It is, isn't it? Oh, Rachel, I'm digging all your stuff. Digging it all the time here. I think we're good. I think we're good. No apologizing. My comments on YouTube make my husband say, "But man." All right, guys. I think I'm good. We are at 59 minutes and 57 seconds. If you liked the video and you're on YouTube, like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're watching on Facebook, make sure you follow the page or like it or whatever it is. And if you want to get in on the book, you can go to this URL. You can either pre-order the Kindle version, you can wait for print, or there's a form at the bottom of that page. You can just get on the mailing list. If you're not ready, I'll just tell you guys when print and audiobook is ready to go. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for supporting this. Like, tremendous amount of support means a tremendous amount to me. This is a lot of work, and the fact that you guys are so generous with your feedback means a lot. So maybe we'll do another one at some point. Appreciate you guys coming by. See you later.